Hi, Sherry.
Hey, Christy.
I want to say hello to our families who are listening to our first Holton Highlights podcast. I thought it would be great to collaborate with Sherry Wells, our Assistant Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, on this Holton Highlights letter, since we're in the midst of celebrating Black History Month. Sherry had the great idea to spice things up and do this as a podcast instead of a letter. We are both definitely doing what we ask our students to do by making this podcast, taking a risk and stepping out of our comfort zones.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. So together, we're going to share with you our thoughts on the lower school community, our infusion of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging throughout lower school, and our theme of for Black History Month and Common Threads this year, Black Joy.
So, Christy, you often speak about the lower school as a community. If you could choose one word to describe the lower school community, what word would you use?
There are so many words that come to mind when I think of our community, but if I had to pick just one, the word that I think really distinguishes our community is joyful. It's lower school students skipping down the hallway hand in hand, talking excitedly about the class they were just in and sharing what they're about to learn next with enthusiasm.
Yeah, if people could see me right now, I'm doing that same signal.
And I think it's so important to think about joyful learning in the context of it's not just that what you're seeing in the students, but all of the intentionality that's wrapped up in the moment that allows for the students to be feeling that joy. Our students feel known, seen, and valued by their teachers and their classmates. We work to create an environment where students can feel and be their full selves and learn deeply about each other. Our teachers are always working to create the most engaging curriculum they can that connect with our students' interests and meet their developmental needs. And we're always working on intertwining our competencies, both the competencies of the curriculum for the content and our kid-friendly learn well, live well, lead well goals, such as collaboration, resilience, valuing diversity, and being creative. This allows for these really robust classes that ask students to think deeply. You know, joy is more than just happiness. Where happiness is an outward expression, joy is this internal feeling that needs meaning and purpose to be felt. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the reasons that we have so much joy in our community is that our curriculum is filled with meaning, purpose, and connection. It encourages students to think deeply about their identity, to think critically about their role in the world, and their ability to be change makers within it. And this really resonates with our students and gives them that important sense of purpose in a world where it can be pretty easy to lose direction.
Right.
In our work together over the years, Sherry, we have thought deeply about how to create this immersive curriculum. We've been doing this for a while.
Right.
And we wanted to really make sure, I remember as we were really thinking about this work, of making sure that we could answer affirmatively to all of the questions posed by diversity practitioner Rosetta Lee. Do you see me? Do you know me? Will you protect me? And will you treat me fairly? So, Sherry, will you share a little bit about our program and how we built it for our students?
So, for me, I think responsive classroom with morning meeting and then later advisory were really the building blocks in our work together over these years. We wanted to create a brave space for building community and the sense of belonging, as well as opportunities for students to learn more about each other and not only hear different perspectives, but also wrestle with being challenged by these perspectives. That it's okay to have these bits of challenge. It's where you stretch and where you grow. So really encouraging that.
Yeah, I agree. I think responsive classroom really was that foundational piece that really started our work. Another thing that I think has been just so critical to our work is the diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging mission statement that really gave us a mandate to move forward with this work.
I agree. With the creation of this statement, we were kind of given a call to action to further create brave spaces for conversation and tackle some tough topics in a developmentally appropriate way. I firmly believe that if students are old enough to experience prejudice and racism, they are old enough to discuss it.
And I think our seminar curriculum and Common Threads have really helped us to be able to think about what that curriculum will look like and how we can engage them in these brave spaces to have these conversations. Our seminar curriculum is really focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, health and well-being, and global competency. And the skills that we're developing in these areas are essential for our leadership in today's world. In seminar, students will often have a chance to learn about these concepts in an interconnected fashion. Our lessons build upon each other. They're scaffolded to be that developmentally appropriate piece for our students. And I think, as an example, one of my favorite lessons to do with our third grade, which I teach, is this lesson where we talk about fair versus equal. And I think you agree with me, Sherry, that fair versus equal, it's a big thing in our lower school.
Absolutely.
And so we have our students, they're each given a card. They don't know what anyone else has, and it has a different injury that they've been given. And that can range anywhere from maybe a hangnail to an arm being bitten off by a shark. And so as the students are reading them and they start to act them out, one adult is going around giving everyone a Band-Aid, no matter what their injury. Yeah. And it's pretty easy for the students to quickly pick up on, oh, I get it, right? Not everyone just needs a Band-Aid. We all need what we need, and that's not always the same thing. And, I think it's really interesting because it's always easy for students to get that in the lesson, right. But then when we take it into the actual application of something happening right. to them, right? Like that's really going on, it can be a little bit more challenging. So to have that anchor of that lesson to be able to go back to and be like, remember that Band-Aid lesson? You can get a lot of those, right. And that helps them to process through it.
Right. And the seminar really gives them this common language that we can use throughout and refer to, just like that example, refer to that when the students are wrestling with these things in the real world.
Yeah, and for us to have, as a whole lower school community, those words, right? It gives us those I statements. It allows us to talk about oops and ouch or impact and intent. Yeah. And I remember when we first really introduced those words, it was just a game changer in how we were all able to talk with each other as a community. And so I think, then when we look at the kind of the other end of the spectrum in lower school, so our sixth graders, they are at a place where they're already exploring the dimensions of their identity. They're thinking about how the dimensions of their identity intersect and the impact of this intersection within society. I always feel amazed what happens between a third and a sixth grader, right? And to see all of that growth and development. And I think part of the work that's been so fun is really thinking about how do we really dive into these topics at that right age for that right group, and really keep scaffolding them in their learning. And I know another huge part of this, right, and they've grown together, I feel like, is our seminar and Common Threads. So will you share a little bit about that wonderful program?
Yeah, so Common Threads really, I think, is kind of an extension of the seminar program and supporting the seminar program, because that is the place where students, based on their identity, can deeply kind of explore with people who identify in the same way. Some of the topics that they talk about in seminar are other topics that are happening out in the real world as well. This was another important milestone in our work together, I think, was the creation of Common Threads Affinity Group Program. And honestly, the whole process felt like giving birth. There was so much, all the lead up to it, the preparation, the research that we did together, conversations with within the school, with other schools, visiting other schools, and a lot of the convincing that we kind of had to do as well that was involved in creating these spaces for our underrepresented students. All of this led up to the launch of the first group, which was a BIPOC group for lower school. And now we have 5 groups with a mixture of affinity groups, allied spaces, and learning spaces for a variety of different underrepresented groups at Holton. And the feedback has been, wonderful. We've received feedback from students, members, from non-members that are students, from parents, from alum, the facilitators. It's been really uplifting and amazing to get this feedback. People are grateful for these spaces, to feel this sense of belonging, and to be empowered in their identities, and really to be able to bring their full selves to the Holton community as well.
Yeah, I was really touched when the BSU came to talk to lower school at a division meeting, and they had gone to talk with the BIPOC Common Threads groups, and just some of their perspectives and sense of things that were different for the students here now than they were for them. And I think Common Threads and the seminar played such a huge role in that.
Absolutely.
So we're in the midst of celebrating Black History Month, and there's a lot going on here in lower school. It's super fun. From a broadcast every day from lower school students about famous Black figures to gathering presentations on Kwanzaa and Juneteenth and Mardi Gras, to just on Thursday, I think it was, some of our Black students had a chance to meet with Black alum and hear a story. And the theme this month is being focused around Black joy. I was wondering if you talk a little bit about why that theme and why this is particularly important in terms of lower school students and positive identity development.
So, Black joy, the idea kind of came from actually a seminar retreat where Melissa Brown spoke about the fact that we've spent like so many of these last few years kind of in almost a traumatic state. It's after almost 4 years of strife and trauma, and from COVID to AAPI hate to the brutal and inhumane killings of Black and brown people in this country, we felt it was time and absolutely necessary to focus on the beauty of the BIPOC community. And so joy became the theme for both the middle school and lower school BIPOC Common Threads groups. And we decided to bring this theme into Black History Month as well, with a focus on one way that joy shows up in our community, and that is through our celebrations, as we know how to throw a party, for sure. And these celebrations are really an example of our resilience.
And the other day you were talking to me a little bit about resilience, and you were connecting it with Ruby Bridges, and I really loved hearing about that. Would you mind sharing?
Sure. So, when I think of resilience, I see it so much in children's ability to find joy during some of the most challenging moments. And I thought about the story of Ruby Bridges and how her faith and her family and a caring teacher helped carry her through a really deeply painful time in her life. And she was able to really lean on her community. And for many in the Black community, coming together to celebrate our heritage and our culture and the people is really a critical factor in sustaining joy when we go through so many pieces of trauma in our history. And so we chose to show this part of who we are this month and really highlight the ways our community comes together to uplift each other.
Well, I have been really impressed with all of the activities that have been created this month. And for anyone who hasn't walked through lower school over the past 6 weeks, it is It is amazing. It's an ever evolving decorations and really joy, right? That the students are all seeing, and they're being a part of the creation of the lower school, and it's really been remarkable. I know the students are really excited for.
These third and fourth graders, they are on it. They're writing notes during the Black History Facts of the daily facts, and I think they're going to give the fifth and sixth graders a run for their money.
I think so. We're going to have this culmination competition, blue-white points, but I think it's going to be a fierce competition, and everyone is in. I think, in closing, that it's important to note that despite all of the work that we are doing, that we're doing this with young humans who make mistakes. And that's why I like to always talk about our community as being imperfectly perfect. That is to say, we're not perfect. We don't expect anyone to be perfect. This is hard work. This is challenging work. And at the same time, I think it makes us unique that we do have this deep desire by everyone in our community to really try, to really be aware, to call each other in to new understandings and perspectives, and to keep growing. And I have to say, Sherry, that I appreciate you so much because I feel like you do all of those things for me. So thank you for all of your work here.
And I appreciate all your support in doing all these things so that we can bring all of these different activities and programming into the lower school to make it a really special place for all of our students.